Hi and welcome. My name's Rob Scott from UC Today, and in this UC Summit session, we'll be talking about moving to full UCaaS from on-premise PBX or a cloud PBX, and why voice, messaging, and video is a winning strategy for digital transformation in the new norm of 2021. So today I'm joined by James Brannan, who's head of UC products at IR, and Josh Jeffries, who's head of IT at Faststream Recruitment Group. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, thanks for joining me. And a great place to start today would be just to do a quick round of introductions. James, would you like to go first?
Yeah, hi, I'm James Brennan, and I head the UC product line at IR. And while IR is maybe not a familiar household name, we do support and work with many of the largest enterprise and service providers around the world. And we're one of the largest providers of monitoring and troubleshooting and analytical support for UC systems, whether that's on-premise or in the cloud. We help to make sure that your calls go smoothly and that your IT team can support you.
Great. Thanks, James, and good to have you here today. And over to you, Josh.
I am the head of IT at Faststream Recruitment Group. We do shipping-based recruitment globally. We've also got a aviation side, which also recruits globally as well, and also a construction and architecture side, which is primarily based in the UK. We've recently gone through a major digital transformation project, which we've just finished. And as part of that, we decided to move to RingCentral for our cloud UCaaS supplier.
Fantastic. Thanks, Josh, and good to have you here too. So we've got a really nice dynamic today. We've got a UC vendor, and we have an end customer from Ring, that's using a RingCentral platform. So first of all, just to kick things off today, I'd just like to maybe go to James first on this one, but just for definition's sake, I think it's good to just talk through the difference between what we've seen as a cloud PBX for maybe the last kind of 5-10 years and versus a full UCaaS platform. James, would you like to maybe talk us through that, please?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty straightforward, and those of us who've been in the industry for a while will be pretty familiar with this journey. But really, PBX and voice are a subset of UC, and UC as a service is essentially the cloud variant of UC. So telephony is really just one component in the whole broad application suite that is UC. So if you add in things like messaging and instant messaging and presence, video and content sharing, point-to-point calling, multi-point calling and meetings, potentially, depending on your definition, potentially even things like file sharing and collaborative file work. All of those things come together to really provide a complete UC platform and UC system. And we are definitely seeing more and more of that moving to the cloud, hence the big push and a lot of discussion around UC as a service. But while I say telephony is just a small component of that, while it's one of many items, it still represents one of the largest components of UC. So in terms of users and in terms of minutes and value, it's still by far the largest component of UC utilization.
Yeah,
I definitely agree. So for us, the actual move to cloud-based over over kind of on-prem or our own hosted cloud kind of solution, it really offers that flexibility. So you have everything kind of one platform rather than having multiple different kind of solutions out there. So yeah, that was the ideal solution for us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of names for these things nowadays. I mean, you could call it UCaaS, you could call it hosted PBX, you could call it cloud PBX. There's all sorts of different names, right? But ultimately, you're absolutely right. Lots of applications within the UC stack nowadays for communicating and collaborating. So fantastic. So a good place to start. So I wanted to kind of jump on to kind of talk about UCaaS and the benefits of UCaaS in the new norm, because 2021, it's a new year. We've just come, out the back of the 2020 pandemic, and hopefully we're not going to see another one anytime soon. But what are the benefits, would you say, James, of using UCaaS in this kind of new norm, this new way of working?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to level set on is the fact that this is the new reality. That while we did see a massive spike in utilization of work from home tools across the board, while that's kind of leveling out again, it's at a much higher level than it was pre-pandemic. So as we go into 2021, the level of need for solutions like this is higher than ever. So I've seen different stats, but potentially upwards of 500 million workers working from home going forward. And that's a 25-30% increase from where it was pre-pandemic. And it's likely to continue growing from there. So this is truly the new norm. And particularly if you look at knowledge workers, where it's more prevalent and easier to work from home. It's upwards of 40% of knowledge workers will be working permanently remotely in some fashion, at least a day or a few days a week. So tools like UC become absolutely critical. Whereas before it was a nice to have. It was good for connecting with remote colleagues if you were a global organization, or connecting with external parties. Now it is part of what we have to do every day, even to talk to the people that I used to sit right next to in the office. And it's going to be common now for all of your meetings and all of your calls to have a combination of people in the office and people working from home or working from wherever. So the tools that we make available to our employees become absolutely part of the day-to-day work life now. The tools like UC, where I can see people, video, people have become incredibly comfortable and used to video now. I've been in the video industry 20 years, and we've been waiting for this inflection point for a long time. And it's really good to see people comfortable and really adopting these tools now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's exactly the experience that we've had as well. Is it really gives you that flexibility of being on a video call or taking a voice call wherever you are, or even just sending a quick IM. It's really cut down that kind of email, mass emails that we used to get. So IM is quite an important feature for what we kind of do. But the face-to-face is where it's at, really. Without doing that, and without being able to organise interviews and that between all of our clients and candidates, it's that would severely affect what we could kind of do. And so all of these tools are there for us to use, and we definitely run with it. So it's that is exactly our experience as well.
And I feel like in the past, when people had the ability to see each other face to face, it was okay, and they were comfortable just to go with voice. So telephony was, the medium when you were connecting to people, because you saw them every other day. You didn't need to see them on video in your day-to-day conversations. But now that desire to feel connected and to maintain that personal connection with your colleagues when you don't get to see them all the time, and the need to be able to share files and collaborate on work documents together. It's mandated the move away from pure voice and to adding all of these other components to it.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah, indeed. And certainly the pandemic's helped us really get used to being on video and using video for that interaction day to day. So, okay, so I want to jump back a little bit towards and looking at the kind of migration process from a PBX to full UCaaS, and kind of just look at those options. And I know we've got Josh on that could talk us maybe through, what you went through, Josh, but also from your perspective, James, from a kind of quality of service point of view, what are the best choices, and how do you make those choices ultimately? So, James, first of all, what are the deployment options for when looking at UCaaS?
Yeah, so look, early UC platforms were available full on premise. So, companies who were had their own on-prem PBXs. Many of the vendors came out with variants of UC platforms that were on-premise. But I would say that they were a bit of a compromise. Whereas now with UC in the cloud, you have much greater flexibility, much greater ease to communicate with anybody. When it was on-premise, things around security and firewalls often prevented that ease of connecting with anybody. Whereas now with UC as a service, you don't have to think about it. It's that nirvana that we've been shooting for, which is I just want to click and invite someone and join a meeting or join a call with them using voice, video, or whatever the heck I want to use. So it's great to see that the cloud capabilities have made that a reality. But what we're still seeing, it really depends, I think, on the size of your organization and where you are in that journey as to whether you're going to jump full blown into cloud or whether you're going to have a temporary transition strategy or a long-term hybrid strategy. We're actually seeing the majority of mid-size and large customers continuing forward with a hybrid strategy. And that could be for a number of reasons. It could be that they're in existing contracts, or they've got a large investment in an existing on-premise PBX, and they need to sweat those assets. Or it could be that their existing provider provides great call rates for international calling and things like that. There's a whole host of reasons why you would maintain that on-premise PBX, but then connecting that to a cloud UCaaS service. That often allows you to also provide a best of breed kind of solution where I've got one vendor providing my telephony for on-premise. I've trusted and known that vendor for a long time, but my users have now moved to one of the new UCaaS platforms for their meetings and video, but I still need those things to work together. And that's where a hybrid environment really comes in. And as I said, most mid and large customers we're seeing in that stage now. The companies that are moving full blown into full calling and everything from the cloud and potentially even from a single vendor, smaller companies are ready to do that today. It makes life very easy for them. And companies who maybe just happen to be at that point in their contract where they can evaluate that. And if you're reevaluating your on-premise option, almost everybody is at least going to evaluate a full cloud option. Whether you choose it or not is then up to your priorities.
Yeah, I think for us, we evaluated quite a few different solutions, and the really kind of my past experience with kind of a hybrid solution. We used to run a 3CX server, which we were used as a cloud-based one, so we hosted it on our Azure platform, and it's we found there was a few limitations with that when we were expanding globally. Coming on to at FastStream, I went back to a via on-premise solution, and we kind of looked at the different scenarios and maybe going to like a 3CX system or a different kind of our own hosted cloud solution. But for us, it all came back down to how easy was it for us to expand globally and support our offices in Singapore and US, and how easy could we roll out those offices into new locations. And really, a full cloud solution was our best kind of option, and that's where our journey took us with RingCentral.
Well, you're absolutely right, aren't you? I mean, there's no organisation the same out there, and everyone's got different requirements. Yeah. And certainly, the larger they get, the more complex they get, I imagine, and certainly the investments get bigger as well. So, as you say, James, sweating those assets is quite a common reason not for moving directly into a pure play kind of cloud platform. But yeah, lots of options out there. So probably best advice is to get some consultancy if you're not sure which way to go to start with. But ultimately, the holy grail is to get to that full UCaaS platform, I'm sure. In terms of top advice that we can give the viewers today, in terms of looking at that kind of migration path to full UCaaS, James, I'd like to start with you. What top advice would you give to buyers, out there right now looking at full UCaaS solutions?
Yes, probably the biggest tip that I would give is to actually pick a strategy. So what we found in the early days of the pandemic last year is that companies just adopted lots of different tools. They let users do whatever came natural, or even threw multiple tools at users just to see, what was going to work. People, needed to react quickly, so they fired up Zoom and they accelerated their move to Teams, and they, threw in other services just to give redundancy and capability, and to see really what was going to work. So once they got through that stage and said, okay, we've now got through the panic period, they moved on to the next stage, which was really about hardening that solution and saying, okay, we're going to narrow down and we're going to focus and we're going to pick a strategy and a solution and come up with a plan. And we see them now moving into the third stage, where it's really about innovating. Now that we recognize this is the new norm, we're not going back to how it used to be. We've got a tool, we've got a strategy. How do we get the most out of it? How do we really optimize this? How do we really understand our utilization? And oftentimes in these multi-vendor environments, multi-vendor is okay as long as that is your stated strategy. What I would not recommend is having lots of different options for users and letting them choose whatever they want. The good news is there's so many great tools out there today that whatever you choose, it's probably going to be a great choice. And the big thing is just picking one. And from our perspective, as a company that tries to create the highest quality experience that we can, we would recommend, especially if you've got a complex environment, look out for tools that help you manage and monitor that. Because what you want to make sure is when you roll this out, people forget or don't forgive very quickly when you have a bad experience. If people start having a bad experience in their calls, they're going to get really frustrated. So if you've got tools that really allow you to manage and monitor and maintain these solutions, that's going to be really important. Beyond that, I would absolutely say do some training, do some adoption consultancy, whatever it is to make sure that your staff really understands how to use it. Because there's probably 20 things that they didn't realize they were able to do in their tool that once they realize it, they go, wow, I would use that every day. So with that, I'd just say make sure you've got a strategy. That's your primary thing.
Some really good points there. Thanks. And Josh?
Yeah, I think exactly that is work out what you need, what your providers can actually provide to you. Are they a global supplier, or are they a local one? And it's all those kind of features that really benefit the actual company. So for us going with RingCentral, we found that there was a lot of CRM integrations and that were already developed, and that was kind of a big part of what we needed. So it's all of those little bits that you need to kind of identify of what's a nice to have, what's a not so nice, and then run with it there. Speak to as many people as you can, and you'll soon find the one that is suited to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are on that, that journey to UCaaS, there's so much to take in really, but there's been some great tips provided here today on this session. So, hey, James and Josh, it's been great talking to you today. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks.
And that's it from us. So if you've enjoyed this session, there's lots more at the UC Summit Conference and Expo 2021. Thanks for watching.